not only do they have access to the right information, but that they understand that information. And so bringing in raw data on its own isn't enough. You have to bring in raw data with semantic context so that the models know exactly where to look to write SQL under the hood.
Hey, greetings, everybody. This is Adil across the funnel. This year has been so exciting in terms of the new age technology that we're talking, and the founders and these DTM leaders that we are having these conversations about this AI bubble it's a big noise, and a lot of these tooling are trying one way or another to implement AI into their processes or their products internally and then for their customers. And we were thinking that why not because data becomes a big ask, that and how to model, how to structure data in the way that it understands all these teaming and is in the best shape to be piped and populated across different tech stacks, be it engineering, be it product teams and all. So today we're going to be talking to the chief executive of Precog, Jon. They're one of the fastest growing data infrastructure company that integrates with all of your data tools to help structure data in the way that it is available in one of the bigger data platforms like Snowflake and Databricks. So we'll get to know more about this. Thank you very much, Jon, for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to be here.
Love that. So I know that your your prior background is something relatable to this. I know there's no way you can be in a chief C-suite for a company like Precog without having a prior background. Could you just walk us through a little bit about your journey for the last 10, 15 years and how you ended up, you recently, congratulations that you started on a new role of chief executive at Precog. But prior to that, how this all came together and what was, the shift, the biggest AI shift that you'd seen. And when I talk about AI, data is the bigger part in it. So how was your journey so far in the recent years?
Yeah, so I'll give you just a quick on my journey. So I actually started my career as a software engineer, graduated with math and computer science, and I wrote code for about 7 years, and was involved with an early stage startup that grew very quickly and got acquired. And kind of through that, I got very excited about more of the business side of technology. So took the opportunity to go to business school, graduated from MIT Sloan in 1999, and was very early in B2B SaaS, helped launch OpenAir. I was the first employee hired by the founders, and it wasn't even called SaaS back then, but we sort of charted a course there in delivering software as a service. OpenAir was later acquired by NetSuite, and ultimately Oracle remains a leader in the category today. But through that, I got just really excited about just SaaS and cloud technology in general, and have been involved in a bunch of SaaS businesses over the last 10, 15 years. My most recent journey was at a company called Signiant, which was also in the data movement space, more focused on moving large video content for the media and entertainment industry. We grew that company from about 5 million in recurring revenue up to 50 million and sold it to private equity at the end of 2024. I was the chief marketing officer there, and so just kind of led the scaling and growth from the marketing side. And then after that acquisition was out networking and connected with the guys from Venture Guides who had invested in Precog. And Precog has some really, really powerful technology, has some really good customers, but not unlike a lot of startups, was probably trying to do too many things at once and was having trouble scaling. And so they brought me in to just kind of help take Precog to the next level. So I joined in October as CEO, and we're continuing to grow the business and really excited about the market opportunity in front of us.
Absolutely. So now, when we talk about AI and when we talk about data infrastructure and data modeling, that becomes a big question. Like, how do you think this AI has been now penetrating more towards the less AI-enabled industries where these data warehouses are mostly used, like big enterprises like in legal and healthcare. So and then becomes a big opportunity to people like you to have a huge impact with your expertise and all. So how do you think that this industry has been more moved by AI in the recent times compared to the beginning of like ChatGPTs like 4.5, when they were like tooling of GTMs like customer support, sales, marketing, SDRs, like there were so many AI agents coming through, and then now it's more like I would say the heavy lifting of the AI, which is these industries. So how do you see these industry verticals changing
Yeah.
with the impact of AI?
We're seeing a big shift, I think, right now, sort of end of 2025, early 2026. So, we all know the power of AI. We all use it every day in our lives, in our work. But in the enterprise, when you think about asking, sort of business critical questions, for example, which of my customers are at highest risk of churn, or, which of my suppliers are putting my compliance at risk, or, which of my SKUs are going to run out of inventory in the next 30 days. Those are questions that the LLMs on their own can't answer because they don't have access to the data. So Precog's an enabler of that, and it's a really challenging problem because if you think about the LLMs that we use, when you go into ChatGPT, it's read everything that's ever been published on the internet, but it doesn't have access to your SAP data or your NetSuite data, and you can't just take that data and dump it into a model. For one thing, it would be prohibitively expensive. It changes all the time, so you need to be up to date, and it would unearth a lot of privacy security concerns. So how do you solve that problem? How do you enable an enterprise to be able to answer those business critical questions that require access to very specific data sets that aren't available to the models? And so that's what Precog is all about. So we have a platform. It's an AI native platform. We can automatically connect to any SaaS API. So Salesforce, Marketo, you name it. We have trained it on hundreds and hundreds of APIs, and it can automatically spin up a connector, not only extract the data, but understand the data and land it in your warehouse, whether that's Snowflake or Databricks or BigQuery or Fabric, whatever you're using, land it in a way that's not only normalized and in relational tables, but also with semantic context so that the models can understand that data and start answering questions right away. So we explain the
Enhance the
data.
capability.
We explain the data to the models, but we're only bringing in specific data sets that you want to bring in. We're not bringing that data into the model. We're just bringing the metadata into the model so it knows where to look to basically under the hood generate SQL statements against your data in your data warehouse. But you can prompt it with natural language queries because we've explained, hey, this piece of data sits in this table with this column name. And you do that across dozens of applications, tens of thousands of columns. It's a very challenging problem, but the more you can bring the data with the context, the more these models can really start to answer business critical questions. So it's a really exciting time because I think we all see the promise of AI, but it hasn't been fulfilled in the enterprise because the models don't have access to the data, and it's challenge. There's a lot of obstacles in getting it there and getting it ready to use.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, the capabilities that keeps on improving the capabilities and fine tuning the internal data by, the context is fed to the back end. And
the
by
power of
just
the models, is not the problem. We always like to say, like, AI is ready, your data isn't, right? That's sort of our tagline because we know the models are powerful enough to answer questions, but they can only do that if not only do they have access to the right information, but that they understand that information. And so bringing in raw data on its own isn't enough. You have to bring in raw data with semantic context so that the models know exactly where to look to write SQL under the hood.
Love that. Love that. And this is where all of this, these market leaders are doing really, really good, like feeding the right context and understanding the semantics of the context to have a specialized capabilities. And that's also the agentic workflow. Like agents are just like this. You might be noticing a lot, Claude Bot and all this open crawl and all these capabilities and skills inside Claude that are specialized for certain contexts. And now they have a longer reasoning or context window for you to use it as models and build things on top. So how do you see this category? Is it more relatable to core B2B SaaS?
Yeah, I mean, I
Building
think
on
every
open models.
business relies on data and uses lots of different applications. So we're a SaaS business, but we use a lot of SaaS applications. So even to run our own business, we're using, extracting data from those applications so that we can ask questions about customer churn and ARR and customer support situations and things like that. So every business today, is a data business to some extent, right? We all rely on these apps, and we all rely on the mission critical data that lives in those apps. And so making that available to the models is what unlocks, just incredible efficiencies, right? I mean, if you take that analogy, like people started using ChatGPT and Claude several years ago. Well, now with, Claude being, integrated right into your GitHub repository, now it sees your proprietary code. The exponential benefit from that is remarkable. Well, think about now taking that same approach and applying it to your SAP data and your Oracle data and your Salesforce data and your NetSuite data, right? Or whatever systems you use internally. All of a sudden, you can not just improve your software engineering practices with AI, but now you can improve your business processes, your regulatory reporting, your financial reporting, your customer 360 analyses. Like all of that stuff is possible if the models have access to the right data with the right context.
In the right context. That's super important. So now, do you also see this category, like your categories, opening up towards not SMB but mid market? These smaller companies started to care more about their data models and how it's structured and how it's getting articulated across different functions, and of course, like how it relates and impacts the revenue directly, the revenue, which is retention and expansion models. So how do you see this category opening up towards the mid-market
Yeah.
side?
Yeah, I think the opportunity is there for any size business. I think it's just really a question of resources. So, if a mid-sized company has a data team, even if it's a small data team, but they need to bring data in from multiple applications, then this solution, could be very beneficial to them. But that's really the gating factor is like, do they have data in multiple places? And do they have a data team that's, focused on bringing that data together, governing it, and making it available to to these various use cases? So it depends. But like, my previous company, Signiant, we had a small data team. We were bringing in data from multiple applications. We never were connected it to AI at that point because it wasn't ready yet. But I could see, when I was CMO at Signiant, I would have loved to have, LLM agentic access to my, to all my sales and marketing systems. That would have been incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible that you look back and you think that, hey, this was just like a year back could have like moved things so fast.
Think about all the time we spent trying to understand our data and putting reports together and all of that. And again, today using Precog and something like Snowflake and Claude, we could have enabled instant access answers to those questions.
Love it. Okay, perfect. So now let's talk a little bit about the go-to-market. I know this podcast was like more inclined towards it, but it was important for us and everybody listening to understand the unique positioning of Precog and what kind of impact that it's creating, especially in the mid-market segment, because most of these companies listening would be mid-market size companies, like between, I would say, Series A to Series C, Series A to Series C, that's 10, 15 years old. So now thinking about go-to-market, how the customer education part is being the biggest concern in this, like how you're educating people or these personas to make sure that they understand the need of this and it keep on growing as they go become bigger companies, bigger.
I think the good news is there's a lot of downward pressure from boards, investors, executives to leverage AI in the enterprise, right? So everyone's thinking about it. And I think just like I was mentioning, sort of end of 25, beginning of 26, you're starting to see people understand like, okay, the opportunity is really exciting, but there's some real obstacles in getting there. And so, we're leveraging that momentum that's in the market to explain, hey, yeah, this is a real problem, and this is where Precog can help. I really look at the evolution of data teams. Right now, data teams are, they serve a bunch of folks, a bunch of different business units. They're essentially responding to, Jira tickets or just an onslaught of requests. I need this report. I need this report. I need this report. And they end up in kind of a spin cycle as a service provider to the business. I think AI has the potential to really shift that to where the data team becomes the true AI enabler for the enterprise. And I think the data teams that embrace that and say, hey, our job isn't just to build a report and respond to specific inquiries and tickets. Our job is to make sure that executives across the org can get the answers to the questions that they need, and that those teams become the true AI enablers. And I think that's super exciting. I used to say, like, the data teams, can either be the heroes or the villains in this AI story, but the opportunity is them for it to be the hero.
Are they ready to go outside their comfort?
Yeah, I think it's a shift, right? Because again, the last 5-10 years, it's really been, hey, I need this report, I need this dashboard, and they're just in this perpetual spin cycle. So it is a little bit of a mindset shift, but they have the skill set and the knowledge to be able to do this. And we're starting to see some forward thinking data teams, lean in and say, hey, we can do a lot more if we leverage AI and we enable the right data sets to the right teams. But there's real challenges, right? There's privacy and security and governance and data cleanliness. I think AI is going to expose some bad data and bad data practices. And so I think that's where the data teams could become the villain. But again, if done correctly, they could really be the hero in this story.
So I was looking at here some of the how you're packaging it across especially mid market and now evolving them. So looking at the success side of things, I know that this is more of a question for your like VP of sales or account management or success, but you on a high level, how do you have any kind of playbook to measure success across these companies and how they're growing, how they're leveraging your tooling based on connections or based on some of the metrics that they have to make sure that, hey, they're potentially using the platform, but adopting the platform. And at some point, they'll grow enough for us to have some sort of expansion engagement and see how we can expand them. Or there's a churn indicator, like they're not. So
Yeah. Well, so we're a relatively small company, about 30 people. And, we do have a customer success program and we have a sales team, and we do use a lot of systems that, from intercom for tickets, from linear for, internal project tracking to, obviously our own platform has data that we access to understand, how much data is being moved, how many rows, how many columns, how many connections, is the customer doing more? Are they doing less? All of those signals help us know, like, when to engage and, is this customer at risk of churn? Is this customer an opportunity to grow? So we try to use those, internally, that we use the data and we use our own product internally to try and answer those questions. But that's, that's how we model it, is based on, we know when we engage with the customer, we understand what business outcomes they're looking for, and we certainly try to track against those. But we also have just like what I would call plumbing metrics of, how many connections, how many different sources are they connected to, how much data is moving, is it changing, is it going up, is it going down? And those are good indicators of, hey, their data business is growing. Let's engage and see if we can help them even more.
And all of this is basically measured in digital touch motion, like in terms like it's sort of data driven, like you get nudges or triggers like your CS team or with the next course of action.
Well, we're, as I said, we're starting to use our own product, and we've connected Claude to by MCP to our Snowflake instance. So we're bringing all the data in from all of our systems into Snowflake, and then we've created views in Snowflake that have, like a customer success view and a sales view. And then we expose each of those views via MCP. And now I can connect Claude directly to that MCP server. And I can ask questions like, are there any customers this quarter who are at risk of churn? And it will look at all that data and say, oh, here's the 3 that you should be, proactively engaging with.
Gotcha. So the Claude MCP direct workflow integrated and based on analyzing all those
and we happen to use Snowflake and Claude, but you could use any data warehouse platform, and you can use any LLM that's, as long as it supports MCP, and you could run these workflows.
Gotcha. So now I know that we are pretty much like done with the first quarter, almost like a month in 2020. But what do you think like makes you excited in your category to any kind of initiatives that you're thinking of taking as you've exactly recently joined? anything that is sitting on your plate for you to just execute this year? What makes you excited?
Yeah, I mean, I just think the tailwind of AI and data in general is really good for our business. So I'm very excited about that. We are seeing now, I think this is the first year that I've seen real top-down pressure from executives and boards to, start to take advantage of AI. And we are seeing that as a driver of our business. So that's great. I would say it's also a really crowded, noisy space. There's lots of tools and lots of people using
Mhm.
similar words that we use. We have a really unique approach and a really strong competitive advantage. But thinking about how to break through that noise and educate the market on why Precog is a mission
Mhm.
critical tool to enable these
Mhm.
um, AI ready data and these agentic workflows. That's sort of it's both the excitement and the challenge all in one.
Yeah, I mean, with the challenge, with the adversity, there is an opportunity for growth, and with people like you, with this, this massive background and all, been there, done that. Part of the story is always good to have on the team. So I wish you good luck with all of this, and all the decision making becomes like certainly tricky in certain markets, but it's always experimenting and failing faster and failing forward, and then you keep on iterating. So, so how big
That's
is the team alongside you, like that is directly reporting to you? Like, is there any CMO or
Yeah, so there's
VP
about
of
30
sales?
people. There's about 30 people in the company, obviously pretty engineering heavy. So I think roughly 17 or 18 in engineering. And then we have a small sales team of about 5 people. I have a marketing person, customer success, partnerships. So there's a good size go-to-market team, to bring our tech to market. But we are still in those, relatively early stage. So we are, more engineering heavy right now as we innovate and continue to improve the product.
Mhm.
And as we grow, we'll start to scale up the go-to-market a little bit more. But yeah, I have a head of marketing, head of partnerships, head of customer success, and then a small sales team.
I spoke to this one of the products in this category quite some time ago, like about a year ago, and it seems to be like a pretty long time. So I was just wondering, like, what are the multiples in your category in terms of like when you're going about raising capital and thinking about valuation? Uh, don't worry, is it like mm, close to five? Because of course, this is one of the unique categories that have like better multiples than the other categories, like especially
So
marketing tool.
yeah, it's a good question. I don't really know the answer to that because remember, I'm not the founder. I was brought in by the investors.
Yeah.
So that
Hmm.
round was already closed and I didn't go through the fundraising process. We'll probably go out and raise another round later this year. So I'll get a little bit of a sense, but I do, I think data and AI multiples tend to be greater
Hmm.
than 5x. And yeah, but we'll see what the market bears. Obviously, as you know, it changes all the time. But yeah,
Yeah.
we certainly see multiples, 10x multiples, and even beyond
Mhm.
in the AI space and even in the data space. So I think
Mhm.
that's who knows.
Mhm. Yeah, perfect. One of the our community members, they're also a SaaS company. We collect questions before we onboard. So, are you open to advising these startups? Some of the really cool, founders with this huge background. They're building AI technologies, and of course with AI, with data, but it becomes pretty lucrative in the beginning for a founder. Hey, we're solving this. We're using LLMs and building wrappers on top. They get the funding the initial round. But then when it comes to optimizing costs and having all the data infrastructure and everything, they need like people that have done it. So are you open to advising, consulting, or anything for our community if anybody
I
wants?
mean, I'll be honest, I've got my hands full at the moment, having just come in as CEO and I'm, laser focused on that. So, uh, not at the moment. I'm always happy to connect with folks and be helpful, but I don't think I have the bandwidth to be a true advisor at this moment in time. But,
Yeah.
certainly glad to connect with folks, and, via LinkedIn and answer questions
Mhm.
and that sort of thing.
Love it. So one thing, another question from coming from our team was more like how what culture shifts or initiatives that you're taking from your prior background, previous roles to this new role, like anything that you think like this should be the operating principle on people, how to get best work out of people, team, leadership, all of that. So any new initiatives that you're taking that only you, because people are people and with someone with your
Yeah.
background.
I mean, I think that one thing that we've put in place that, is to really be customer first. I know that sounds obvious, but just making sure that we are proactively engaged with our customers, talking to them, listening, learning. To me, everything starts there. And not being technology first, but start with what are the customer problems, what are the pains, what are they feeling, and then working backwards from there. So that's something that we focus on a lot as a culture. And then also just we're at that point of the founders, brilliant, brought in a lot of creativity and incredible technology. One of the things that I brought in is just a little more structure in how we measure and manage things, and so that we can just understand where we're at as a business, and understand when to grow certain dimensions of the business and that kind of thing. So a little what I like to say is kind of enough process that's appropriate for our size and scale.
Gotcha. So you by that you mean like commercial side of things, like the commercial view of a business?
Yeah, just right. Just making sure that we're measuring all the work that we do, and holding ourselves accountable to tasks and outcomes, and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. That's
Mhm.
you were just at that stage now where we need a little more discipline. So
Gotcha.
that's part of growing.
Yeah, that's more for team and founders at Precog. What is for the audience? What is that one thing that you want? I know a lot of these founders bang their head around, they open LinkedIn every single morning and they see like huge stream of products getting funded. I mean, success stories, and nobody, of course, you know that, like nobody shares the failures. Everybody's so sharing the success stories and wins and everything. So this creates a lot of I would say not the depression, I would say, but it's something they feel that they've been left behind, or a lot of they're just struggling with perseverance, and they always want to do more. I know it's always good to stay focused and have your product vision aligned and everything. So, what is it that you're one thing that you would advise as a leader yourself to keep up with this emotional baggage that they carry, looking at the external inflicted noise they get to experience?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a good question. I think the key to just keep the team energized and focused is, people get excited about seeing customers have success, right? And so that customer first mentality, like not just, thinking it, but really living it, and then making sure that everyone in the org, even if they're not customer facing, kind of sees the exactly what's happening through. So just having a more open flow of information from the customer facing folks back down to the product team, and making sure there's a good loop there. That to me is what energizes folks. That's why people join startups, is they want to build something and be successful. And so seeing
Mhm.
that, feeling it, embracing it, being a part of it is exciting.
Yeah, being a part of something that's growing, like as a startup, and making and feeling the impact that you're creating, either you're customer facing or customer support or product member of the team. Perfect, John. It was really, really nice meeting you. It was insightful getting to know you, your story. You carried a little bit of how Precog is making this huge impact, and technology. Wish you good luck for the next round and all these initiatives that you're thinking of bringing on with this team.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to speak with you, and look forward to staying connected.
Sure, why not?